Bruce Lee's famous quote about the finger pointing at the moon comes from Enter the Dragon, 1973, where he tells his student, "It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory." This metaphor reflects a deep philosophical lesson. The finger represents teachings, methods, or symbols that guide a person toward truth or enlightenment, the moon. However, if one becomes too focused on the guidance itself rather than the deeper meaning, it can be a distraction from true understanding. In essence, Bruce Lee was teaching about mindfulness, awareness, and not getting lost in superficial details. The message encourages looking beyond techniques and words to grasp the essence of wisdom and experience. The finger and the moon. It was late in the evening when Daniel arrived at the small martial arts school, hidden in a quiet alleyway in Hong Kong. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the distant hum of the city echoed like a heartbeat beyond the wooden doors. He had come here not for fame nor for trophies, but because he was searching for something deeper, something that all his years of training in Western dojos had not yet given him. Inside, Master Lee sat cross-legged on the floor, his eyes half closed, as if lost in meditation. He was an old man, his face marked by time, but his presence carried an energy that made the room feel alive. Daniel hesitated before stepping forward, bowing deeply. "Master," he said, "I have trained for many years, but I feel as though I am missing something. I have perfected my strikes, my stances, my techniques, but I do not understand the way." Master Lee opened his eyes and studied the young man. Without a word, he stood and walked to a nearby window, motioning for Daniel to follow. The sky was dark, but the moon hung bright and full above them. "Look at the moon," the master said, pointing with his index finger. Daniel, eager to grasp the lesson, looked at his master's finger. He examined its shape, the slight curl, the wrinkles on the knuckle. He tried to decipher what the master was telling him. A sharp flick to his forehead made him blink in surprise. "Foolish boy," Master Lee said, shaking his head. "I tell you to look at the moon, and instead you stare at my finger." Daniel flushed with embarrassment. I thought you wanted me to—" "You are like so many others," the master interrupted. "You seek wisdom, but you mistake the symbols for the truth. The teachings, the techniques, the words of masters, all of these are fingers pointing the way. But if you focus too much on the finger, you will miss the heavenly glory of the moon itself." Daniel stood in stunned silence. "True understanding is not found in the steps you memorize," Master Lee continued, "not in the techniques you repeat endlessly. It is in your heart, in your experience, in the way you connect with life. Do not worship the finger. Look beyond it." The young martial artist lowered his head, humbled by the simple yet profound lesson. He realized then that he had been obsessed with perfecting movements, with mastering forms, but he had forgotten to feel them. He had been chasing knowledge, but not wisdom. As the night deepened, Daniel sat beside his master, staring at the glowing moon. And for the first time in his life, he truly saw it. The finger and the moon. The night air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. As Daniel stepped through the narrow alley leading to the small martial arts school, lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, their golden glow flickering against the old wooden walls. He had traveled across the ocean to be here, leaving behind the sterile dojos of the West, the endless competitions, the medals that now felt meaningless. He was searching for something more, something beyond form and technique. At the heart of the dimly lit room sat Master Lee, an old man with silver-streaked hair tied back in a simple knot. His robes were worn, his hands calloused, but his presence was powerful, as though the room itself bent around him. He was not like the teachers Daniel had known before. He carried no trophies, no grand titles, no need for admiration. Daniel bowed deeply. "Master, I have trained for many years, but I feel as though I have reached a wall. My movements are precise, my techniques sharp, yet I lack understanding. I seek wisdom." Master Li regarded him for a long moment before rising to his feet with a slow, deliberate grace. Without a word, he turned and walked to the doorway, motioning for Daniel to follow. They
Master
stepped
Li
outside,
extended his arm,
into the cool
pointing
night,
upward,
where the
"Look
moon
at the moon,
hung like a pearl." Daniel followed the
vast
direction
black
of his
sky.
finger. But instead of focusing on the moon, his gaze lingered on the master's outstretched hand. He studied its shape, the slight bend of the knuckle, the veins just visible beneath the weathered skin. He tried to decipher some hidden meaning in the way the master pointed. A sudden sharp flick to his forehead made him blink in shock. "Foolish boy," Master Li chided, shaking his head. "I tell you to look at the moon, and instead you stare at my finger." Daniel rubbed his forehead, embarrassed. "I thought you wanted me to notice something in your hand, in the way you pointed." "You are like so many others," the master said with a sigh. "You mistake the finger for the truth. When one points the way, you must not worship the finger, but see what it is pointing toward. The teachings, the techniques, the rituals, these are merely guides. They are not the way itself." Daniel frowned, trying to absorb the words. "But how can I understand the way if not through the teachings?" Master Li turned to face him fully now, his eyes sharp but kind. "The mistake is in thinking that the path is found in movements alone. You have trained your body, but have you trained your mind, your spirit? Do you feel your movements, or do you merely perform them?" Daniel opened his mouth to answer, but hesitated. He had spent years perfecting every kick, every strike, every stance. But had he ever truly felt them? Had he ever gone beyond the physical? "Long ago," Master Li continued, "there was a man who studied calligraphy. He spent years learning the brush strokes, mastering every angle, every technique. But when asked to write from his heart, his work was lifeless. He had perfected the form, but he had not found the spirit of the art. Martial arts is the same. You can learn every move, but if you do not understand the soul of it, you will never truly master it." Daniel lowered his head in thought. He had spent his whole life believing that if he just trained harder, longer, with more precision, he would reach enlightenment. But now, standing beneath the vast night sky, he realized he had been looking in the wrong place. Master Li gestured toward the moon once more. "True wisdom is not found in memorizing lessons. It is in experiencing life, in understanding, not just with your mind, but with your soul. Do not be trapped by the finger. Look beyond it." Daniel looked up again, this time truly seeing the moon. It was no longer just a bright circle in the sky. It was vast, distant, beautiful. It was more than what he had seen before, and for the first time in his life, he understood.